I must say, it feels rather strange coming back to this format after so long. Nevertheless, we've made it all the way to 10 episodes of Free-for-All, and to celebrate, I felt like going big this time. We're tackling one of the largest gaming franchises that just so happens to be made up of multiple franchises. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's none other than Super Smash Bros. And with Smash Ultimate on its way and looking to be the absolute best entry in the series, 103 stages, 900 tracks, Ridley, K. Rool and Simon. Class dismissed! I felt that pitting the 4 games which paved the way for Sakurai's magnum opus against each other to be the perfect way to determine the current cream of the crop. So join me everyone, as these system sellers go head to head in order to see which one is the Ultimate Smash Bros. Until the Ultimate Smash Bros. Since it's been a considerable amount of time since the last episode, I'll give you all a quick rundown of how this format functions. Each game shall be judged on 8 different categories, and depending on what rank is received, that particular title will earn a specified number of points, with the entry accumulating the highest value at the end becoming the winner. Before we begin, I'd like to stress that the purpose of this video isn't to point out how whichever games don't win to be rubbish or anything like that. As a matter of fact, I adore every single Smash Bros game, and they are some of the best titles on their respective systems that I have sunk more hours into than over 18 years worth of homework. What? That shit's boring! So without further ado,
let the battle begin!
3, 2, 1, go! Free-for-all!
I feel that fighting games are nothing without a stellar cast of characters, and I think it's fair to declare that Smash Bros does this better than most. Due to the foundations of the series being built upon an assimilation of heroes and villains from all corners of the Nintendo universe and more, the fighters featured in each game are often some of the most iconic faces in video game history, with moves pulled from all forms of source material, resulting in every roster being diverse and filled with so many familiar faces that some of us probably know better than our own friends and family. In regards to how I will be judging the collection of combatants, it will be a combination of which characters are featured as well as how large the roster is in relation to the game's release, since the series commonly builds upon the preceding entries and often doesn't leave characters out. Heck, Smash Ultimate said, "Fuck it, everyone's welcome!" With this in mind, I should be giving the first round to Smash 4. Not only does it contain the biggest assortment of characters until Ultimate, but it also contains, from my perspective, a hugely diverse cast. On top of bringing back mainstays from past titles, newcomers like Villager, Little Mac, Robin, Shulk and so on are both brilliant franchise representatives and some of the most unique fighters in the series' history, which to me is a win-win. Smash 4 also made major changes to some of the old cast, as the likes of Lucario and Zero Suit received significant buffs, Pit was no longer cheap, Sheik and Zelda didn't share a slot, and Bowser became so strong that getting hit by his dropkick results in "Oh, let's break it! Damn!" That. Plus, Smash 4 in my opinion greatly benefited from DLC by bringing back fan favourites and new faces like Corrin. Also, I can't forget about the brilliant bunch of third-party participants. I mean, for God's sake, they showed Mega Man in the first trailer, that should be justification enough. Granted, I don't think the roster was perfect, as to me, Dr. Mario, Dark Pit, and to a lesser extent Lucina, were some of the laziest echoes in the entire series after what Brawl had established, and the lack of recent beloveds like Snake and Wolf were a bummer. On that note, Brawl shall earn second place for also having a very large ensemble that brought in obscure oddities and some very iconic individuals, from the god-tier Meta Knight, Rob the Robot, Olimar, Diddy Kong, the Radiant Hero Ike, and being the first Smash Bros game to introduce third parties with Snake and Sonic. Heck, thanks to Brawl, Pit got his franchise back, and I think it's fair to say things have turned out for the best, cramp-inducing controls notwithstanding. I also have to give Brawl major credit for revamping and introducing Echo Fighters that have much more original movesets instead of being one-to-one copies. Granted, as a result, the likes of Ganondorf got nerfed so bad, but I appreciate the attempts to make these fighters more unique. All that remains is Melee and 64, and surprisingly, the third place winner is actually 64. Now before you smash your keyboard at us disgust, the reason I'm doing this is because I felt Smash 64 had a very strong starting roster. The original 8 are the perfect people to represent Nintendo, and their movesets were brilliant recreations of their exploits in past adventures, even if the likes of Fox had little to go off. Plus the 4 newcomers were great too. Though it is true that having only 12 fighters is relatively small, for the first game in the series, I think it's fine. I mean, give Smash 64 some credit, it had more people to pick than this lot. Concerning Melee coming in last, I do feel that around roughly half of the newcomers were fantastic. From the precious princesses Peach and Zelda, the king of Koopas Bowser, the world's strongest Pokemon Mewtwo, to who the fuck are Moth and the Ice Climbers, Melee hosted some very heavy hitters. However, my biggest problem lies with the Echo Fighters, or as many people called them back then, clones, because in the case of Melee, they were just that. Despite Smash Bros getting much better when it comes to Echo Fighters, the ones introduced in Melee from my perspective were essentially one-to-one copy-paste jobs with only the slightest of differences. Now granted, the likes of Dr. Mario, Falco and Ganondorf I love playing as so much in Melee more so than any preceding title, but that's mainly because they're so similar to other fighters in the game, with the likes of Roy and Young Link not helping the situation and making for, in my opinion, not a very stellar roster. Plus the game also has Pichu, who is absolute trash. So bearing in mind the big picture, I perceive Smash 4 to have the perfect mix of both quantity and quality. The arenas player skirmish on in Smash I'd argue to be far more integral than most fighting games, as they come in all shapes and sizes that reflect locations and set pieces from Nintendo's never-ending library, with hazards, bosses, layouts and other factors amassing in complete and utter chaos. Now at a glance, it's easy to assume that the game containing the largest number of battlegrounds should win. However, that won't be the case, as I personally favour quality rather than quantity concerning the various battlefields, and I don't just mean these ones. Therefore, the title that I feel is comprised of the highest good to bad ratio will be the winner, which in this case, oddly, is Smash 64. I know this may sound strange, but honest to God, I happen to love every stage in the original Smash Bros. To me, they were the perfect size, had interesting layouts, incorporated elements from their source material beautifully, and just made for an overall really great time. Sure, there aren't that many of them, but there isn't a single stage I would refuse to partake in. In a somewhat contrast to this, Smash 4 comes in second for only having a large quantity of levels, but simultaneously delivering a high standard of quality too. Many of the new arenas introduced in Smash 4 I thought had a really cool architecture and equally enjoyable obstacles that multiply the mayhem, resulting in each stadium feeling all the more genuine, especially the ones with boss hazards. I also love that the game introduced the ability to play in Omega form, as without it, I wouldn't touch certain arenas with the long end of a star rod, like Pac-Land, Orbital Gate despite the visual spectacle, Palutena's Temple, and the Great Cave Offensive, which is literally offensive! I'm also not huge on the fact that Smash 4 is very guilty of bringing back old stages, more so in the 3DS version, but like with the roster, I view there to be a nice compromise between size and substance. Moving up one step from its current rank is Melee, as while I don't like a good number of stages in this game, I'll give them points for being very inventive and unique. The likes of Big Blue, Pokefloat, Rainbow Road and Brinstar Depths, to me aren't the very best places for battle, but they make for a fun time more often than not, and add a sense of insanity to the game that is very surreal but not to the point of being unplayable. I also feel that the overall number of stages is strong, with most of them being original, plus Melee has some of my all-time favourite combat zones like Corneria, Pokemon Stadium and Hyrule Temple. Yes, I love battling in the Fight Club. The carnage that takes place is glorious! Brawl unfortunately hits rock bottom, as this is what I would argue to be a defining case of quantity over quality, as despite having so many stages, I thought most of them sucked ass! Let me start by saying that I felt Brawl did a great job with the likes of Shadow Moses Island and Castle Siege, but most of the time the battlefields in Brawl, not counting the actual battlefields, were just unbearable to play on due to their minuscule size and falling victim to having a plethora of stupid gimmicks shoved so far up its ass you could reach in and pull out a modern Sonic game. Now to be fair, gimmicky levels aren't new to Smash Bros, but fuck me did Brawl go overboard. I mean, don't get me started on how bad places like Rumble Falls, 75 meters, Mario Bros and Hannonbo were, to the point where I didn't even find silly matches to be fun because of all the shit that was taking place. Stages in Smash Bros are a situation where I feel that less is more, and Smash 64 simultaneously had the least and most to offer. Fighting games as a genre tend to be very light on the single player content, which is understandable. However, the Smash Bros series I always felt to be a significant exception to the rule, offering up numerous modes for the individual to explore and conquer that can last them for months on end, not to mention presenting challenges that require much more than just fighting the AI for the extra bit of variety. This category, much like with stages, is where I'm far more favourable to the eminence of the single player experience rather than the magnitude of modes, which made choosing a winner no easy feat. However, in my heart, I knew that the best Smash Bros game to be played by oneself was Melee. Smash Bros Melee, from my perspective, contains one of the best solo experiences present within a fighting game that I still think holds up to this day. This is where I felt Classic was at its best, Break the Targets was wonderful and unique to each fighter, Multi-Man Melee was about as intense as it could get without going overboard, Home Run Contest made me feel sorry for the sandbag, the event matches were superb scenario-based skirmishes that shut on both Brawl and Smash 4, despite the old difficulty spike. Fuck you, Event Match 51! All-Star was the ultimate endurance round, and playing through platformer-like levels based around the different Nintendo series in Adventure Mode was fan-fucking-tastic. And and the absolute best time I've ever had playing Smash Bros by myself. Plus the game's difficulty I view to be overall pretty solid, and aside from one or two occasions, again fuck you Event Match 51, melee never got too much for me to handle. Second place goes to Brawl, as that too had a hefty single player mode, though I felt the likes of classic, event matches and break the targets were more watered down and formulaic versions of what melee had to offer, which didn't make them bad per se, just not that great in my opinion. However, what saves Brawl from being nothing more than sloppy seconds is first and foremost, Boss Battle. I adored playing this mode as it was such an intense and heart-pounding marathon to the point where I could never walk away from a defeat until I cleared the entire string of enemies and faced off against some of the most fearsome creatures Nintendo has ever created, along with the titans of the Subspace Emissary. Speaking of which, this was Brawl's answer to Melee's adventure mode, and sweet merciful Lord in Heaven was playing through this so very meh. Okay, before I step on any toes, I did enjoy my time playing Subspace. It's a really big escapade that hosts an immense amount of locations and set pieces to tackle that made for a fun beat-em-up style platformer. But after a while, the novelty wore off on me and became rather mundane, though the cinematics are very nice. Brawl I also found to be pretty solid regarding difficulty, but fuck me did it get annoying sometimes with the shit it would pull, what with the unhealthy amount of annoying enemies, some really taxing event matches, and that cheap as fuck Rings of Death. Brawl did test my patience more times than I'm comfortable with. Smash 4 goes from second to third, as I felt it really dropped the ball in the single player department. Not only did it remove staples like break the targets and whatever the hell the Wii U version did to classic mode, but the event matches were really blah, the new bomb game was and also got so tedious because of how many characters you had to face off against. However, the one saving grace for each game is that I felt the 3DS version had a really good classic mode with branching paths, and Smash Wii U had both Master and Crazy Orders, which I loved and felt to be a great risk versus reward assortment of scenario-based challenges. But overall, I don't think Smash 4 was designed with the one player in mind. Smash 4 is also, in my opinion, the hardest game in the series, which I do like as it does offer a real sense of challenge this time and isn't a cakewalk, but this came at a cost, as some of the event matches and the likes of Master Fortress you swear were designed to give me a heart attack, to the point where my blood boiled so much you could use it to fry an omelette. As bad as Smash 4 was, Smash 64's single player is otherwise non-existent. Yes, that is literally all you can do, and that too was formulaic in regards to who the player faced. Granted, I don't want to be too harsh since it was the first game in the series, and for what it's worth, it did have target tests designed for each character, along with a mode I sorely miss.
Board the platforms!
But that simply isn't enough, and Smash 64 was also guilty of being piss easy thanks to the brain-dead AI. Therefore, when it comes to looking out for the 1%, I could always count on Melee. Now we come to the real meat of the matter, as I believe we can all agree that multiplayer is where Smash Bros truly excels and delivers an experience almost no other video game compares to. It should be noted that I'm not so fussed about value compared to capacity, as I feel that as long as you've got 3 friends with you, it'll be a great time no matter what mode is being played. Unless someone decides to be an ass. You motherfucker! As you may have pieced together based on my previous statement, Smash 4 takes first place this time, as not only does it have all the series staples like Special Smash, Tournament Mode, though it's Wii U exclusive, a much, and I mean much better online service and so on, but thanks to the largest number of stages and fighters, I'd argue that no two matches will be the same. Even more so thanks to the addition of 8-player Smash, which though I don't play often, can be loads of fun with up to 8 numbnuts being smacked around the screen in a glorious flood of chaos. Smash 4 furthermore hosts exclusive multiplayer mode for each system. Smash Run on the 3DS, which I thought was an excellent mini adventure mode that involves collecting items to power up your fighters a la Kirby Air Raid and partake in power boosted battles, and on the Wii U there's Smash Tour. It sucks. Brawl takes the second place spot again, as it too hosts a vast quantity of stages and characters, along with all the multiplayer modes you come to expect. Oddly enough, due to Brawl having more gimmicky stages and the introduction of elements like final smashes and assist trophies, the level of chaos this game could reach was otherwise unheard of, and to this day it's still just as crazy for better or worse. Brawl also went out of its way to make the majority of single player modes co-op like Subspace, and of course one of the biggest selling points for Brawl was the fact that it was the first game in the series to feature online play, which I was very thankful for. And though it can't be accessed anymore, you really weren't missing out on much. If any of you watching have played Brawl online, then you know how shit it was, what with games being laggy as fuck and having an overall piss poor setup and structure. And you know what the absolute worst part is? This game was delayed twice just to fix the online, yet it still turned out utter shit.
This is a real freaking embarrassment.
Melee follows behind in third, as it does not contain as many options as the preceding entries, along with a smaller number of stages and fighters, but it's still a great time regardless, and it did introduce all those special modes like coin battle and stamina, which have become series staples along with the much beloved tournament mode. Smash 64 finishes dead last as there are literally just stock or time battles. That's it. I mean, yes, it's the first game in this series, and those alone are enough for a good time, but come on, some variety would be nice, especially with the minuscule number of participants and pitches. All in all, I hold on to the belief that Smash is best played with friends and family, with the game I got the most enjoyment out of when surrounded by the ones I love being Smash 4. I've always perceived Smash Bros. To be very unique among fighting games, as it's far more free-flowing and built around knocking the opponent out of the ring instead of dropping their health to zero. In fact, button combinations like these are rarely featured and allows for what I've built to be a far more frantic experience that's easy to pick up and play, but also has many hidden techniques and skills that are hard to master. Since its inception, Smash Bros. Has changed so much from the mechanics, controls, movesets and so on, but I feel the overall strongest was Melee, mainly for the fact that, well, it essentially set the standard for how Smash Bros. Would be played. Though 64 was the originator, Melee pretty much made Smash what it is, as everything about the game was faster, tighter, it added new moves, new mechanics like air dodging, and has been the basis for every preceding entry, not to mention having my absolute favourite control scheme, the GameCube controller. Mamma mia, this baby is beautiful! Melee isn't without flaws, however, as it is a bit strange to go back to it now without being able to do things like grabbing ledges from behind, as well as some really annoying exploits like chain grabbing, but I can't overlook just how much Melee changed Smash for the better. In spite of setting the standard for the series, I felt that Smash 4 otherwise perfected it, and thus comes in second place. All the bullshit like edge hogging and chain grabbing are gone, the game's speed is a nice middle ground between Brawl and Melee, tripping was removed, thank God, and the game as a whole feels a lot more balanced and precise. And I know Melee is still considered to have the ideal Smash engine, but honestly I think Smash 4 has an impeccable design mentality that caters to both the casual and hardcore crowd. I just find it to lack innovation. Speaking of innovation, I'm giving third place to Brawl for introducing various new features to Smash, but fucking up in a multitude of areas. Allow me to first establish that I am very happy that Brawl brought in elements like final smashes, being able to grab ledges from behind, multiple air dodges and so on, and at its core it's still based off Melee's engine, so I find it fine to play for the most part. Plus, it was the first game to allow users to customize their button layout and choose which controller option they would prefer. Though being real here for a minute, why the hell would you even play Smash Bros like this? When things start to get a bit more technical, that's where I feel Brawl falls flat on its face. Literally. Yes, we're all aware of how awful tripping is, and to this day those scars have not healed, but on top of that the game seems so floaty and the movement is significantly slower that I found it difficult to get any real combos going and lacks the intensity of what came both before and after, which wasn't much of an issue when facing up to 3 other players, but any less than that and it became really noticeable and really jarring. Even with a multitude of problems, Brawl to me remains superior to 64, as that game is so limited when it comes to gameplay for being incredibly bare bones and straightforward. Keep in mind, I'm not going to bash it for lacking the same level of refinement as Melee and above, because that's unfair, but even when looking at it for what it is, a lot of the attacks have awkward and difficult to read animations along with jank as hell hitboxes, and I feel the N64 controller doesn't work that great for Smash, or a lot of games for that matter. Though thankfully, Melee saw to that, and thus comes out on top this time. Fighting games tend to pride themselves on being very flashy, and well, Smash Bros is not shy about doing just that. Each game is filled to the brim with so much charm and energy that allows the action to practically leap off the screen, essentially preventing dull moments from ever existing, and the amount of detail that goes into each character, location, special effect, and even the menus is immense. I mean, just look at these intros, that shit is hype as hell. It's easy to assume that Smash 4 is going to win this round because it looks the best, and well, it does, but I'm not giving it top marks just because of the high graphical quality, as that comes with improvements in technology. Though for what it's worth, Smash 4 does look great for a Wii U game and runs at a consistent 60 frames per second. But what this game really has going for it is visual flair. Smash 4 does an excellent job of rendering the fighters beautifully and seamlessly blending them together, but on top of that, the effects of the special attacks, intensity and sheer bewilderment when performing final smashes, background details present within the stages, arcs that follow each attack animation and so on, allow the game to practically burst into life with colour that makes merely watching it a real treat for the eyes, especially if you get just the right angle. Moving on, I assume the majority will be hedging their bets that Brawl comes in second, but no actually, that's going to Melee. Despite being over 15 years old, God help me, where does the time go? Graphically speaking, I think Melee still holds up, and for an early GameCube game looks wonderful. The models are sharp, the animations are smooth, the stages are detailed, and I love the entire art direction. Everything just pops and feels so natural that sometimes it's just nice to admire the scenery, though I don't know what's going on here with Samus. Like seriously, I think you should get that looked at. Now Brawl can come and claim its bronze medal because holy shit, this game looks incredible for Wii standards, and it's so carefully detailed and refined I'm surprised they fit it onto one disc. Actually, they didn't, as Brawl used a dual-layer disc which many early model Wiis, much like mine, couldn't read and had to be shipped off to Nintendo to be fixed. That was the absolute worst experience having to wait to play a game that everyone else was enjoying. Until the situation with Fire Emblem Fate's European release date. I love you, Nintendo, but seriously, fuck you. Brawl's attention to detail I find to be a double-edged sword, however, as the game goes for a more photorealistic art style, which for the likes of Zelda and Fire Emblem looks absolutely fine. But when it comes to all the Pokemon and Mario characters, it clashes really bad with the character models and just looks off-putting to me. Plus, the game has a very faded colour scheme, which I don't think is dull per se, just rather washed out and weak and fails to pop out unlike other titles. And coming in last we have Smash 64, which I'll admit is very colourful and hosts a lot of bright, flashy effects, but the rest of the game was an eyesore to me, even for N64 standards. The characters and stages are incredibly blocky, some of the animations are awkward, the map paintings or backgrounds look dreadful, even the menu is very dull. Well, no matter the game, the Smash Bros series will always be filled with colour and charisma, but my fashion goggles are telling me that Smash 4 is the new black this season. Sweet mother of God, was this one difficult. As if having characters and stages from various Nintendo franchises wasn't enough, the soundtrack of each Smash Bros game is just mwah! From iconic tunes, remixes of classic songs, and even the series' very own original scores, music might just be my favourite part about every Smash Bros game, and is the ultimate love letter to every Nintendo fan out there. Oh my god, this is gonna be amazing! As to which software I felt had the strongest symphony, that Grammy goes to Brawl. Holy shit, did the team go above and beyond with the soundtrack. I mean, the main theme alone is jaw-dropping. But on top of that, the sheer amount of music in this game is, for lack of a better word, outstanding. And though not every MP3 is my cup of tea, I cannot overlook just how much effort went into this soundtrack, and it was such an exponential improvement over what Melee had to offer. That's not to say Melee's soundtrack was poor. In fact, I find it to be the complete opposite, as Melee's music was great. So great in fact that it earned second place. Compared to Brawl and Smash 4, Melee's orchestral library is far more limited, but with that said, most if not all the songs are either remixes or original scores of classic Nintendo tunes. To this day, I think Melee has the overall strongest rendition of classic Nintendo numbers, from Hyrule Temple, the DK Rap, Flat Zone, Corneria, the various Pokemon themes, and that fucking phenomenal Fire Emblem remix. Melee's music has stuck with me all these years and it never gets old. Smash 4 drops down a peg into third place, as I allege that it merely built upon what Brawl had achieved, which is by no means a bad thing, as this game also has a staggering number of songs and some wonderful remixes like the vocal version of Light Plane. I fucking love that track. But I felt it failed to deliver the wow factor of Brawl or have the exquisiteness of Melee. Finally, Smash 64 comes in last again, since the musical arrangements are very limited, and I'm personally not a fan of the majority of tracks, as to me they feel rather stale and lacked a sense of oomph or pizzazz. With that said though, I think Smash 64 has the best sound clips in the series, as it is home to my favourite announcer and the sound effects used when pummeling players to pieces. Pure bliss. But unfortunately not enough to stand up to the brilliance of Brawl. The Super Smash Bros. Games are some of the best examples of value for money I can think of. There's enough meat on these bones to feed you for months, plus all the extra stuff on top of that is icing on the cake, often being a vast collection of modes that span great lengths of Nintendo history and all the wonders they've created. When it comes to going another round, I'm giving the final point to Brawl, as it contains a substantial amount of single player and multiplayer content, combined with oceans worth of extras to collect like trophies, stickers, music, subspace to 100%, achievements to unlock, a pretty good stage builder, masterpiece mode to explore characters' origins, and the fact that most solo modes can be tackled with a friend might just give you the incentive to see everything the game has to offer. And simply put, Brawl has enough content to last you an entire console generation. It did it for me, and then some. Smash 4 takes home the silver medal, as it too hosts lots of single and multiplayer options, along with trophies, music, custom parts, achievements, online, and so on. But the stage builder I find to be not nearly as strong. Smash Run is great, but Smash Tour sucks, most of the single player is rather weak, and overall, though Smash 4 will last you a very long time with friends, on your own, I don't feel there's much to come back to. Melee follows up in third place for lacking a lot of modes and the fact that it doesn't take too long to unlock everything aside from Mewtwo. I'm sorry, 20 hours versus time? What dumbass thought that was a good idea? However, the multiplayer is still buckets of fun, and even after its completion, I find going back to adventure mode every now and then to be a great time. Finally, Smash 64 brings up the rear, as aside from playing with friends, once you unlock all the characters, there is literally nothing else to do aside from the bonus levels and trying harder difficulties. Man, talk about one and done deal. So to wrap things up, this series isn't shy when it comes to content, but Brawl was by far the most bountiful. At the end of the day, I love these games and this series so much. Every title has been a joy to play and provided me with so many great memories you need an entire city's worth of servers to store them on. Smash Bros. 64 has the unfortunate effect of being the first game in the series and now feeling strenuously outdated, very much like the original Pokemon or Crash Bandicoot. I find the game to be very bare bones and basic, but retain a sense of charm that can't be dismissed, and still make for a good time with friends and family. Melee is a true gem of both the GameCube and fighting games, elevating the series to new heights and transforming it into a juggernaut of a fighting game. Not to mention improving on the original in every way, and despite some issues with the roster and being a little rough around the edges, it's still amazing and has earned the right to be called one of the best fighting, nay, video games of all time. Brawl suffers from the unfortunate case of not living up to the standards of its predecessor, and as a result, becoming in my opinion grossly overhated. Join the club, it's only getting bigger. For what it's worth, there are a multitude of factors that really hurt this game, so I won't deny that Brawl has issues. But to me, what it does well, it knocks right out of the park and made for one of the finest experiences I had on the Nintendo Wii, and possibly the most ambitious game Nintendo has ever created until Breath of the Wild. When push comes to shove, however, Smash 4 was the one I felt got almost everything right. Yes, the single player isn't great. Yes, Smash Tour sucks. Yes, the new echoes are lazy. But honestly, there's so much good to this game that I find the flaws to be almost non-existent when basking in the brilliance of all Smash 4 does wonderfully. With an amazing roster, magical music, gorgeous graphics, so much Nintendo love and enough multiplayer madness to bring about the apocalypse, this game to me remains the ultimate Smash Bros. Experience until December the 7th, 2018. So the winner of today's episode of 3FORALL and the overall best game of the 4 is Super Smash Bros. For the Wii U and 3DS. Thank you all for watching today. I hope you had a great time and enjoyed the video. Please leave your thoughts in the comments and let me know what your favourite Smash Bros. Game is. Plus, I'd love to hear feedback on the new format for Free-For-All, what worked, what didn't work, and if any changes are necessary. Also, please don't forget to give this video a like, subscribe and click that notification bell, as well as follow me on Twitter, Amino, and Discord, and I would greatly appreciate it if you donated to my Patreon in order to support the channel and other projects, along with receiving some exclusive benefits. While we're on that subject, I'd like to take this time to say a massive thank you to all my patrons who help support the channel. Without your love and support, none of this would be possible, so thank you from the bottom of my heart. I love you all to pieces. And I'd like to give shout outs to Nate Perkins, Chaos Saberlai, Karam Chowdhury, Samuel Line, Justin Konovich, Vanessa Westfall, Vincent Clark, Midnight Castle, Patanko Fan 32, Maggie Fall, Almond, Jeremy Redinger, Jacob Richer, The Main Idea, Perfect Oblivion, and Feralin Ape 392. You guys are the absolute best. I love you all so much and thank you once again from the bottom of my heart. Anyway, that's it from me. I'll see you all next time.